So, by the way, I want to get right in. So, Jim and Mike are both via Zoom today. So, it just took us, it wasn't that bad. It probably only took about, maybe 5 or 7 minutes. But first,
I actually would think 30, but, don't let the facts get in the way of a good story.
Well, I don't know if it was 30 minutes. So, Jim is preparing for WrestleMania. That's why he's not here. And Mike, say hello so we see you, and you're in your new digs in New Hampshire there. That's awesome. Say hello.
Hey, everybody. Good to see you.
So what did you want to start? You want to start with a Davis story right out of the gate? I have no. So first of all, let me set everything up here. So if I remember correctly, the 1 week I didn't feel well, so we didn't have it. And then last week I was with Shane in Colorado, and he's in the mountains. So I was concerned if all three of us were on Zoom, his connection was so piss poor. I mean, we had a hard time streaming the basketball games, which, by the way, the people that do that, good luck. Have fun with that, because we could barely watch any of the games. But anyhow, that's why we didn't. So we're a little bit behind. So I have some notes on episode 17 that I want to touch on, but let's get into, first of all, that's why we were a week away. Let's get into the Davis story right out of the gate. What do you have?
Well, it's baseball season, Doug, and there's a whole ton of background noise somewhere. But since it's baseball season, I thought I'd start with a story about Davis.
Alexa, turn off Family Room TV.
Yeah, I knew. I'm like, what the hell is going on in here? This is the last time. I tell you what, Jim, the next time you can't again. Come over, I'm bringing my shit to you.
Yeah. That's fine.
Freaking Alexa, turn off the television. We can't use that word. That? It's going to turn Jim's TV on. All right, Mike, go ahead. Start back up again with the story.
I took the headphones out. I thought I would hide it.
All right, go ahead.
All right. So in honor of baseball season, because spring training is underway, it's almost opening day. Every year, Davis and I pick, we do baseball picks. So we pick who we think is going to win each division.
Mm-hmm.
We pick who the MVPs are going to be, who the Cy Young Award winners are going to be. And then we pick playoff winners and World Series winner. So 2016, Davis is he is adamant that he's got all the picks right. His Cy Young pick is Chris Archer. Chris Archer goes on to lose 19 games that year.
He's Andrew Young.
Who's he picking? That dick Nick Pivetta this year to win it? Hey, make sure he picks that jackass so that jag-off can lose 19 games. So Archer, that's impressive.
Yes, 19 games.
The cartoon Archer won more games.
Hey, listen, my Mets had Anthony Young that probably lost 28 games in a row. So how am I complaining about Chris Archer?
Who did he take this year? Who did he pick?
We haven't done them yet. We're like we usually do it literally. We send them to each other the night before opening day. So
okay.
We haven't done them just yet.
I forgot when that is. That's next week sometime, right?
It's delayed a little bit. I think it's next Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. Next Thursday.
Did he take coconut oil and Gabe Kapler as manager of the year?
Good one. Yeah, that's a good one.
You know the whole thing with him and that, right? The whole, right?
Well, I do, but maybe not everyone does. That's a really good one.
You know what happened? I bet you he got Vicks on his Johnson and took it off with coconut oil. That's what happened. He heard coconut oil rubs that right off, or he put the coconut oil on there to make sure that there's no Vicks that got on it. That's probably what happened.
Good one.
You bring that up, and I spoke to a friend from college, and I brought up the peeing over trucks. And they're like, you know what? Next time we're all together, we're going to videotape this to bring this up. So now Vicks has actually become the next stage of peeing over a truck. You know, that's what we've come down to right now.
Well, first of all, I want to touch on a couple of things that was mentioned during that revisiting. One, when I was telling the story about how his hands worked his way down, Mike belted out, giving her the business down there. And I'm not sure what he used. I don't know if he used the Shocker Island or what, but he mentioned giving her the business, and I completely just went right over that, completely forgot about that. So that was impressive. Jim's got a Wawa cup, so if he's got to take a shit later, he can use that cup in case you just missed that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we'll delete that out. But by the way, you know, talking about going down with junk and all that, did you ever hear the story about Junk Hand?
So,
Mike?
I have that on my notes. I'll let you tell it. Okay. This happened to me, Mike. Okay. Jim's been holding on to this one for weeks. I'll let you tell it because you witnessed the whole thing. And if there's any details left out, before he tells the story, there's that old saying about no good deed goes, what is it? No good deed
goes unpunished.
Goes unpunished. Yeah. This is that exact example. I got punished for doing a good deed. So go ahead.
So it was about a year after you moved, okay? And I got to take this out so I can kind of hear myself. So it was a year after you moved out of Forks Township. And we had 2 football teams in Forks on the junior Pee Wee level. We had Doug's team and another guy's team. And the other team wound up playing on Thursday nights every night, like every week. And we would break practice, and Doug and I would go over and watch Shane and Joe play. So there was a guy that was extremely muscular and used to wear jeans with open work boots. He would have work boots on, but would never tie them. So his jeans were tucked neatly into his jeans. And he's sitting there one day, and he's adjusting himself along a rope line and just, you know, fixing himself. And Nicole and I were watching it, and Nancy Bonfanti was watching it. And all of a sudden, Doug comes over, and he was so happy to be adjusting himself with his right hand. So when Doug comes over, he's like, "Hey, Doug, how are you?" And hands out his right hand and shakes Doug's hand. And we just sat there like, you know, you just shook his hand after he rubbed his junk for about a good
That's like grabbing his dick right there. It's like just
thanks for
grabbing
that.
his dick and pulling it.
Thanks for that, pulling it. Thanks. It's not even close to the same thing of pulling a guy's Johnson when you shake his hand after he touched himself. It's not the same thing. The thing is that
it's just like grabbing it.
That's not what happened. So Jim got it right. The thing is, I see him, and this guy's got all kinds of issues. I don't need to get into it, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go over and say hello to him, and you know, I'll be a nice guy, and that's my reward for that. They all sat there, saw it coming, saw it happening, decided not to like yell, "Hey, Doug," or get my attention to maybe like get over there. Instead, proceeded to watch me do this after he just went down on himself there with his hand.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Let's let Doug just basically grab that guy's dick.
Yeah,
just grab that.
Yeah, in a sense, that's sort of what just happened. Yeah, I mean, it's not, but it is. That's one of those.
Afterwards, Mike. You know, he's like, "Oh, really?"
Well, I had gotten told by someone that I always looked like I was pissed off. So and that's why people didn't want to approach me. So I thought, all right, I'll be nice. That's exactly what it is. I'll be nice. I'll go up to this guy, and that's what I get. So now, whenever you shake somebody's hands, you got to make sure they're not dragging their hand on their schlong for a half an hour. It wasn't gum on my shoe, just in case anybody was wondering.
Good one.
Jim did as vague a description of this guy as possible. I mean, I will say this. The thing is, if anybody knows who we're talking about, they already know who we're talking about. There's no more need for it. But this guy was roided up like fucking crazy.
Yeah.
It was something.
Oh,
actually, Mike, it was, in case you're wondering, it had something to do with squealing like a pig. There's a connection there.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that might help you put a face to the schlong there.
Yep.
That's
Put a face to the schlong.
So I have that down there. I have junk hands on my notes, which, by the way, I didn't send you guys anything. That's some of the stuff. I want to go back to the base. So Jim mentioned that in order to get the Vicks off, maybe you would put some milk down there because that helps when you eat hot wings. I also want to point out that we glazed over that comment and wondered exactly what's going to happen if you're going to lay there or put yourself in a chair and just throw some milk down there, because that helps when you eat too many hot wings.
I said bathtub.
What's that?
I did say bathtub.
Oh, you got to soak in a bathtub of milk.
Throw a little water and some milk in a bathtub and soak yourself. Might help.
If you look that up, there's no answer to that, by the way, if anybody's wondering online. You got to be careful on that one.
Well, you know what? You go on Google and do something like that. You got to kind of figure that Google is going to be like, why is this idiot asking that type of question? I mean, Google has the answers for everything, but I don't think if you rub Vicks on your junk, what happens?
Can you
that's
imagine?
Probably
so. I mean, I know a few people whose wives are emergency room nurses. They have got the best stories. But that's got to be one that somebody, and that's minor compared to some of the things that have been found inserted in certain areas. But that's got to be hilarious if you've got to go like, hey, because you're not gonna take one for the team and say you did it yourself because you're an idiot. So you got to tell the story that your boyfriend decided it was time to give her the business down there.
Yeah.
It's like this. Yep. It's like the Seinfeld episode with Kramer. If you ever get by a proctologist, don't leave his side. He's going to have great stories, right? 1 in a million shot, Doc. It's a 1 in a million shot.
That is true. Speaking of Seinfeld, we had a three-way reference earlier today because I had to do this. When you said you couldn't come over and we got to do Zoom, I said, oh, I know. I figured out how to do a three-way call. Mike points out, oh, what's this about a three-way? You know how to do one of those. And I then proceeded to say it's like discovering plutonium by accident. Yes. So that's one of my favorite little lines in that show ever.
You go back to three ways. My old house in Howell, one night, Nicole and I go over to the neighbor's house, and her and her, husband and wife are there, and the wife's sister is there, and she happens to be an emergency room attendant.
Yeah.
And she said, and she's got a Brooklyn accent, right? And in her Brooklyn accent, she's like, you would not believe the shit that I see in the emergency room. There was a guy that came in that had a pepperoni thing shoved up his rear end, right? And I'm like, and Nicole and I are just like, the jaw drops. And she's like, what? And she goes, yeah. And his story was he fell off a ladder and it got impacted in there. I'm like, you got to be kidding me for something like that. Anyway, the girl's sister, she's emergency room attendant, and she's like, yeah, a guy basically walked into the emergency room, had a pepperoni shoved up his ass, and said he fell off a ladder. You just sit there and you're like, right. And like, really?
No
and she goes, you wouldn't believe the stories that people come in with stuff impacted up there.
Well, first of all,
so you think of Richard Gere,
what do you, no, let's just break this down a second. So this guy decides, instead of admitting to the fact that he shoved a pepperoni up his ass, which probably would have been like, all right, you were on a ladder, apparently naked, and had a pepperoni on the ground, point up, that you landed on. That's that's none of that's going to happen. That is 1 in a million.
Right. You know what? Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story is what it comes down to. So, it's not like she didn't know the guy was lying. Everybody knew the guy was lying when you hear something like that. It's listen, blame me. Blame the fact guy.
No, I hung
It's
up
fine.
on that. Was me. That was my fault. I want to tell that. That was one of my favorite lines in Ghostbusters when Dan Aykroyd's character accidentally shoots the freaking shit off the table and with his ray gun and says, that was me. That was my fault. All right. The other thing, before we move on, I want to stay with this. We're talking about insertions, about the pepperoni and the guy falling off his ladder. Impossible. You couldn't do that if you tried, by the way. Not that we're going to do that, but...
Of course not. That's why the
So
story
who
makes
mentioned
it
turkey
fantastic.
baster as an insertion tool to get milk in there? Was that Mike? Did you mention the turkey baster? You got to use like a turkey baster and get it in there, giving her the business?
Yeah, you gotta get it right in there. Gotta, insert it in there.
That's what she said.
Oh, the other thing is I should be ashamed of myself when you made the Carl Spackler reference. And I didn't know who that. I didn't know the last name from Caddyshack.
You should have been shot for that one.
I should have been.
That was disappointing.
That was extremely disappointing. So I got to take some for that. I knew it was Carl, but I didn't know it was Spackler. That's right. It's Cannonball. All right. Now, if you do remember, let's go sports here. If you do remember, we talked about the quarterback for the rest of their career. And we never really touched on that as far as if you would take Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Mahomes, Herbert, Murray, or Jackson. Now, we talked about this, and it was something that we were going to chew on for a couple of weeks. I already know who I would take. I think this is easy. I really think this is easy. But now you got to remember, Coach, the whole deal. Mike, you go first. What of those 5 quarterbacks, that's 6 quarterbacks, which one are you leaning?
Well, so here's how I kind of approach this, Doug. I'm more leaning towards who do I think I'm going to have longer, right? Like Mahomes is already into his career. So hence that same for Lamar, by the way. So that narrows me down more to Burrow and Herbert. And so my 2 finalists for me would be Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert. I would probably take, at this point, I'd probably go Herbert. I think they're both the same age, but that kid's got a rocket for an arm. He's fearless. I think if you put him in the right team, he's the real deal for a long time. So I'd probably go Herbert 1A and Burrow 1B.
All right, Jim, what about you?
I'm going to agree with that. I do think that Burrow's got the it factor. But the problem with Burrow is he's in Cleveland, and eventually Cincinnati. And eventually Cincinnati's going to Cincinnati. They don't want to pay the money for people. They're kind of doing it right now. They think they have a sort of window to get here and there, but eventually Burrow is going to become disenfranchised with Cincinnati, just like Carson Palmer did and left. And that's why I would take Justin Herbert to have the better career out of everybody of them. Mahomes, like you said, is into this little contract right now. Look, they just traded Tyreek Hill. You want to pay these quarterbacks all this money, then you're going to wind up losing your star players that make you the better player. So I would tend on the caution of Justin Herbert, because I do think Los Angeles, the Chargers are going to be able to fit those people in and surround him, kind of like what the Saints did with Drew Brees over his career. So that's what I think.
I'm gonna go backwards. By the way, I'm gonna have to reconnect another Zoom in less than 20 minutes because the Zoom is running out. So we'll do that in a minute. When this runs out, we'll just do it again.
This is totally my fault. I'm sorry.
Well, it's not. Well, that's true. We wasted 10 minutes looking up. But no, because the other way it was unlimited. So I'm eliminating Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson immediately. I wouldn't do it at all. I would probably take somebody else over one of those two guys. I just don't think they're great fantasy guys. They put up great numbers, but I'm not sold with them being able to win a game when a defense has been schematically put together to stop them. Whereas Mahomes, who's tremendous, Herbert, Allen, Burrow, those guys all just they're just winners. They're not stat. I mean, they put up good numbers, but they're not just stat guys. I'm leaning toward Burrow because I like the fact that I don't think he wants to leave there because of the whole connection. He's got a young coach, and he just wins. Like, he's just got that attitude. That's I think the biggest thing, that moxie that he has that the other ones maybe don't have. That's what I'm leaning toward that.
Yeah, he's got the it factor.
Yeah,
he certainly does.
Yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with any. I've said this before, and I don't think Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray will ever. I don't even know if they'll win many playoff games, but they're never going to a Super Bowl. I also think that Kyler Murray's too much of a me guy. He wants the attention, he wants the money, whereas even Josh Allen, who's kind of underrated, that would probably be my second pick, although I like Herbert too. But I don't think you can go wrong with really any of them, but I think some guys are stat guys that put up big numbers and others just win games.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That's why I had those 1A and 1B, because I agree with you. I think they're really close, right? The thing that holds me back on Allen is his completion percentage is still not great. And at some point in time, that's going to catch up with him somewhere along the way. So I still like I like guys that are, so I think all three of them are fearless for the most part. They're not afraid of a situation. They're not afraid of the game or how big the game is. So I don't think you can go wrong with any of the three. We're picking like little pieces apart at this point with those three, right? I guess I look at it this way. Despite the Colts picking up Matty Ice, which I am excited about.
Yeah.
If you could hand pick one of those three to lay onto the Colts franchise, that'd be a hard call, right? Because I think all three of them could potentially have 15 more years and could lead a complete team to multiple Super Bowls. So I'd take any of them if you're moving them to the Colts right now, right? That's how I looked at it.
Yeah, you talked about Matt Ryan. I that was amazing. First of all, I get more Viking themed stuff from The Athletic. And even their writers are basically admitting that they're mediocre and they didn't do anything to get better.
Yeah.
But immediately the Colts get Matt Ryan, and to me, playoff contender.
Yeah.
Right away, playoff contender. Guy's been to the Super Bowl. Guy can win. Guy can play. Playoff contender instantly. Yeah. Meanwhile, there they are, just flatline, not trying to win games.
You're right, but the last time we did this, we had we talked about DeShaun going to the Colts, and you said you didn't think it would be a good fit, but he was in the mix to go there, and Carson Wentz is a younger quarterback. I don't know if I would have gotten rid of him. I understand that there was more of
listen,
cultural fit.
Wentz sucked. Wentz sucked.
Yes,
he sucked.
He did. But you know what? Matty Ice being at 37 years old, how much is he really going to bring to the Colts? That's the thing.
Fuck.
Like I that's what I wonder. I just don't know. With him going there, it's a fit that I don't see it, but maybe I'm wrong.
Time will tell. I think it's an awesome fit, by the way. Phillip Rivers rolled in there at 49. He could barely throw the ball 10 yards, and they damn near beat Buffalo in the playoffs, right?
So would you rather have Phillip Rivers or Matty Ice?
I'd rather Matty Ice. I'd rather have Matty Ice all day long.
Would you really?
Absolutely. He can move the ball downfield. Rivers cannot any longer move the ball downfield. So that was the issue with Phillip, and that's why they lost in Buffalo. He couldn't move. He couldn't go deep. And they couldn't take the top off of a defense. Ryan can still take the top off of any defense. Okay. He can throw the ball. So I would take Ryan any day of the week. Give me two. If you get 2 years out of him.
Well, that's what you're hoping. I mean, you're getting him right at the tail end of his career, kind of like you had with Rivers, and that's the thing.
Manning went to Denver and won. He went to he lost a Super Bowl and won one, right? So, and in the last year.
He only went to one and he lost.
No, Peyton Manning.
Oh, Peyton Manning. Okay,
He went to Denver, right? He went to Denver for those last, 3 years?
Yes, correct.
2 Super Bowls. So I'll take it. I'll take it with Ryan.
All right.
Listen, I mean, he's a great quarterback. The only thing I think about, and you being a Colt fan, and you watch Peyton go and take 2 Super Bowls with the Broncos, it's almost a stopgap measure, and it's a shame that you guys lost Andrew Luck retiring when he did, because he still should. That kid was the face of the franchise for years and years to come. And he pulled a Jim Brown and a Barry Sanders retiring early in his career. And it's a shame, because now they're trying to get the next quarterback. And you look at the Packers. I mean, they were fortunate. You went from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. And you thought the same thing with the Colts. You went from Peyton Manning to Andrew Luck. You thought you were going to have 25, 30 years of sustained quarterback stuff. And it just seems like now they're just trying to get a stopgap measure in. Like, we'll get the guy at the end of his career and we can get a playoff game, maybe get to a Super Bowl, but they're not really, really building around it. And maybe me coming from a Giant fan. So okay.
That defense is world class.
I'm not debating the defense. Right. It's just let's put Jonathan, the quarterback in as a stopgap.
I realize, that's a shame. I realize I am a homer.
Right. No, and that's fine.
But Jonathan Taylor probably should have been the MVP.
Oh, he's awesome.
Right. And so when you have that line and you have Taylor in that defense, and there's no who are you going to take in the draft this year? There's no quarterback.
Yeah.
You take fucking Corral. No, You're going to take the kid out of Cincinnati. Give me a break. You're going to take small hands. No fucking way. Right. So, you only have a window with a guy like Tate. So I think it's and by the way, they got him for magic beans, literally.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
a third, the 82nd pick overall for Matt Ryan. He might take you to 2 Super Bowls. You don't know.
You're right. It's a no-brainer on that part. But would you think hey, Jordan Love might be available because, actually this Aaron Rodgers contract is not as good as it's good for him, but he's only going to be there 1 more year. But,
hey, you're right. This is my opinion, by the way. This is my opinion. If Love was that good and if he was the guy, they would have let Rodgers.
Oh yeah, Aaron Rodgers would be gone. Yes, correct.
Right.
Yeah. You're not paying Rodgers.
You're right.
All of his overhead drama queen horse shit.
Mm-hmm.
If Jordan Love's your guy.
Yep.
No,
you're absolutely right.
I want to talk about, I had this conversation with Shane probably while we were on some edibles out there this past week, but we talked about Russell Wilson going to Denver. I don't see how that, I see reports that people think that they're instantly a Super Bowl team. I don't know if is that accurate? I mean, am I off? I don't think they're that good, right?
I don't think they're Super Bowl caliber. I don't think they have the defense, and I don't know what weapons do they have on offense for Russell, right? I don't know.
Makes them better, but that doesn't make them a play. I don't even know if that division is brutal.
Yeah, they're not. They're the 4th best team in that division, by the way.
So the way I look at Denver is they're chasing. And it goes back to if you miss on a quarterback, you set yourself back 5 years. They got Peyton, he got him to 2 Super Bowls, and then he retired, and they've been chasing that quarterback. Drew Lock, I can't even remember the other ones. They're chasing. Now maybe getting Russell Wilson gives them a 5-year window of him being there. So maybe it does help them, but you're right. I don't know if I don't think they're a Super Bowl caliber team. I mean, that's a tough AFC West.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the Raiders getting Devontae Adams now, that could be the toughest division in football right now.
Yeah.
And I just don't know if Russell Wilson will be that player to get them over the top. I just don't see it right now.
I mean, you got to be for the wild card. I mean, you got to be like the 3rd best team. I don't see it. I just thought, I mean, that was not, if he wanted to win a championship, I think he would have gone somewhere better. I think it's still about money. A lot of these guys, It's about, I don't know
the
how much money
Giants?
you need to be happy, but it seems like that's what it is, because I don't think it's about winning championships, because he had other, how he could have gone other places, you know.
Correct.
Hey, Doug, I guess the good thing for Russell is if he goes to Denver and he gets ripped one night and falls and tears a hole in his brand new jeans, he'll be all right there.
Would you rather see him tear his jeans or Ciara, or however you say her name, Ciara? I'd rather see her tear her jeans, you know.
Well, hopefully he doesn't chip a tooth either, because that's allegedly what happened.
Good one. It had the brush burn across his face there.
Hey, is it okay to tell the John Clayton story, Mike, when you ran into him at that game?
Yeah, absolutely. That was at the Colts game,
let me
right?
see if I remember this correctly. So John Clayton passed away, so I have notes for this. So you had a chance to be around. Did he smell like he was disgusting, right?
Well, he was a real nice man, by the way. Like everybody, he was super nice. He talked to everyone. He was a really nice guy, but he stunk, and he looked like, which I think is true, by the way, I think he had taken a red eye from Seattle and just like arrived and went to the game, basically, right? So he smelled like he had been up all night in those clothes. Yeah. That's probably what happened. Nice man, but he looked like he was homeless.
The reason why I want to tell this is that I think that commercial that he did where he's eating pizza or eating Chinese food, I think that's closer to accurate than it's not. Like, I think that's really close to how he did his stuff. I don't know if his hair was like that, but I'm pretty sure that's the kind of guy he was. Just living in a house somewhere where there's shit everywhere.
He was like Will Ferrell in Wedding Crashers, Ma, the meatloaf, you know. But though his commercial is right on par with any what's his name, Charlie, the guy that used to do the Yankee broadcast, Charlie Steiner commercials.
Oh yeah,
phenomenal. Those were the top commercials ever on ESPN with Charlie Steiner, and then that one with him wearing his Slayer T-shirt was right up there with everything.
So what did you we got a few minutes here. What do you think about, first of all, I don't think we were on since Brady came back and now Arians is gone. What do you think about that? I have a bad feeling that with Bruce Arians, this is a health related thing. I don't know if I'm way off base on that, but to step aside this late, I have a feeling that this is a health issue, that he doesn't want to be known, and that's why he stepped aside.
I hope that's not the case with BA. By the way, that's what he likes to go by BA.
Yeah.
I still this is conspiracy theory stuff, by the way, but he did bust Brady's balls, right? He was publicly hard on him. If Brady in post-game pressers, he would be very critical of Brady. So there is a side of me that's a little bit conspiracy theorist that wonders, hey, did Brady come back because they said we're going to move BA or BA's going to step aside? Mm-hmm. Is that why he unretired? I don't know if we'll ever know, but I do wonder that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping it's not health either. It just seems awfully odd.
Yeah.
You know what? I actually did read an article today of him. He wanted to step down, according to the newspaper article, wanted to step down earlier. But the reason he didn't was because with the carousel of coaching, he didn't want to lose his coaches. So he decided, if I wait until everything's done and then step down, I can elevate Todd Bowles to take over the position. You know, now, no matter what you think of Todd Bowles, you know, the poor guy got thrown into a real, let's face it, you go to the Jets, you're in a shitty situation no matter what. Arians, BA retiring, I think he's kind of in a shitty situation again with cap room, because what is Brady going to play? 1-2 more years? Like, I don't know. I root for Todd Bowles. He's a Jersey guy, and I want to see him do well. But I just don't. I understand why. If the newspaper article that I read is correct, that he wanted to keep his people in, and just keep the continuity. He hops in the front office position and they can still work together, but he's not on the field for games. Good for him. And maybe they could do it, but I think that Tampa Bay gambled on their future by getting Brady and had a, like we talked about it before, a very small window. That window has gotten really, really smaller now. And, I hope, I could see Tampa Bay going from a playoff team this year to the following year struggling to make the playoffs and eventually starting to go, because you only have so much time with all the money you pay to these people. And you go back to like a Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams. You're signing all these quarterbacks for good money and you're losing your receivers. And, that's the problem.
Hey, Doug, one thing that I find interesting too is Brady has taken advantage of this for 20 years, right? That AFC
absolutely.
East was dog shit. It was horrific. And I don't take anything away from Brady and Belichick because they won those Super Bowls outright, right? However, they had a walk to home field advantage and they had a walk into the playoffs. They were guaranteed. That's the situation Tampa's in right now. New Orleans, you're not going to win shit with Jameis Winston. Let's be clear, right?
But he's sucking W's out of his fingers.
Good one.
Good one. Yes. Atlanta's going to start Marcus Mariota, and they're in a complete rebuild. Carolina's a nightmare. That's a disaster.
Right.
So they're going to win that division. They're going to be in the playoffs with a home game at a minimum. So that might be the reason Brady decided, you know what, maybe I got another year or two because I can take advantage. The NFC is not dominant. It isn't, right? The Rams are still the best team. Outside of that, I don't know who else is there. So maybe that played into it as well. And he just figured, I'll roll the dice. We'll make the playoffs. Anything can happen then.
Right. Well, I'll tell you right
he
now.
tells himself with 7 wins, no matter what, right off
Well,
the
you've
bat
got
in the
6.
division.
You're going to win 6 games, and you're going to cross over and probably play. You're going to win 8 guaranteed. It's a matter. I mean, you're going to win 6 games guaranteed because you're going to win every game in the division, and then you're going to still get some shitty teams. If you got Detroit on the schedule, you got Minnesota on the schedule, or if you cross over and happen to play not the AFC West. But I'll tell you right now that if Brady said to Minnesota, I'm only going to play 1 year, I don't care. I would take him. I wouldn't even think twice about it. It would take a tenth of a second for me to get him there. I don't care because that's why I think with Tampa, it doesn't matter if they've won a Super Bowl with him already. If you had a chance to get Russell Wilson, I would take Matt Ryan in a second. Yeah. If it means one season, I knew that with Favre, if it wasn't for a freaking bounty, they might have had a chance. If you have 1 year to win, I don't care. I don't care because it's been since the fucking 70s since they've been in there. Yeah. If Brady said, I want to play in Minnesota, it's only going to be 1 year, fine with me. By the way, that would make them a legitimate contender. If Russell Wilson went to the Vikings with that roster, it would make them not Denver, but it would make Minnesota. And of course, no attempt for anything like that. But Jim, if it was me and it was Brady 1 year, I don't care. I would do it.
By the way, you see what your Vikings, Kirk Cousins, his career earnings.
It's awful. I don't want to.
200.
It's terrible.
Like, oh my God, to be a marginal player,
not even marginal. His career record's below 500. He's terrible. That's awful.
Yeah.
It is awful, but this is what I mean. This is how stupid organization, not Washington, Minnesota. This is how dumb you have to be to work in. I mean, anybody can do this. Who in the hell is going to pay this guy this much money? I mean, it's unbelievable. Then they extend him to get cap room. So now he's got more money and he still sucks. I mean, a rookie coach is going to turn things around in 1 year. No, they're going to be right down the middle again. They're going to be 8-9 or 7-10 or 7-10. It's unbelievable. He's stealing money. My God, it's awful. That's the kind of guy that if you ever ran into, I'd kick him right in the nuts. The first thing I'd do is kick him right in the balls. Heck, screw this. That's Kirk Cousins. My God, it's terrible. Would you offer your
junk hand?
I'd kick him in the nuts, and then I would shake his hand after he put it down his pants to adjust himself.
Good one. Yeah. Would you kick him in the balls and then say, you like that?
Yes, I would. Yeah. What a fucking moron. God, is he stealing money? You can't fault the guy because I think Derek Carr is kind of on the same run. He's getting a shitload of money too. But my God, and I want to talk about DeShaun Watson. I don't want to do it this week because I want to wrap this up in a couple minutes. I have a very strong opinion about that, and I want to figure out a way to get it across without it being too harsh. But I will say one thing. I cannot. You know what? I don't want to say anything. I'm going to tease that. It's for another time. I want to talk about that next week. Not yet.
I'll give you one thing on DeShaun, and you don't want to get into it. I am totally surprised. The blowback Cleveland's getting by signing him. It totally surprised me. Good for the fans blowing back on him and all that. And that's all I'll say.
Since you brought this up, here's what I'm going to say. Okay, I'm going to say this because I think we're still okay. I don't know.
And by the way, I will never do this from my house again. I'll be at your house next time.
I disconnected the phone again for like the third time because I wanted to see the timer. So here's what I'm going to say. Here's a guy that allegedly had relations with 22 women against their consent. Not one, 22. Right. So we've got to believe, without putting it on trial, that some of those are legitimate. 22 women didn't just all decide. Mm-hmm. So what the NFL, I'm not mad at the Browns. What the NFL has done is it's okay. And now we're going to pay this guy more money than any quarterback in the league. So basically, we're telling everybody that it's okay to do this to women. Now, we're big about ending racism, right? We want to have diversity. We decide it's fun to paint the end zones with end racism because that's easy. I can wear a T-shirt too that says "say her name" to talk about that Brianna, whatever her name was. But when we want to really do something, you know what the NFL should have said? This guy cannot be signed until this is done and we know for sure. But instead, it's fun to paint end zones and it's fun to wear T-shirts. But when it comes down to really having to put your foot down against a problem, you don't do it. You did it to Ray Rice because you had no choice. But this, I mean, come on. Now he's the highest paid quarterback. And now, am I way off on this, or am I close?
No, you're close. I want to add a couple things. Number one, he's the highest paid guaranteed contract in the history of the sport. First of all,
okay, which is worse.
History of sport, which is worse. Number one. Number two, they restructured his contract such that if he's suspended, he pays very little penalty out of there, right? Which the NFL signed off on, right? And then number three, this is where I agree with you. The only reason the NFL punished Ray Rice is because that video came out.
And no choice.
It's not because they wanted to do the right thing. It's because the video came out and they were backed into the corner. So this is what we have basically said is that behavior's okay as long as you can throw a ball and play really well.
Exactly. I don't have video.
Right.
Beat all the women you want and don't put it on video. Right. That's what they've said.
Right. So we're going to wear pink uniforms all October, which was the biggest waste of money years ago. The biggest freaking waste of money. We're in pink uniforms. Now we're going to paint end zones, but we're not going to do anything. Our way of ending racism and having more diversity is we're just going to paint an end zone. We're not going to do anything about it. Now we have a chance to make a statement on a guy that did this, and we're going to pay him more money than anybody's ever gotten before. That's a great message. That's great. I mean, it's not as easy to wear a banned DeShaun Watson T-shirt. We can't just do that. We can't paint our fucking cleats pink. But this guy is allowed to play. It's unbelievable. And then I saw this thing with Brian Flores that basically Goodell said we're going to get to it. We're going to get to it at some point. I mean, what the hell? You would think you'd want to immediately nip that in the bud.
That guy's
we'll
walking around
at some point.
Brian Flores is walking around with a briefcase and all the guns are in it, still smoking, by the way. Yeah. Right? I mean, that's unbelievable to me. So anyway, yes, we could probably go on a tangent about this, but it is shocking to me that there's nothing being done. And I want to point the other thing that's lip service to, Doug, is there's one black coach in the league. Mike Tomlin's the only one.
Well, now
right?
there's
Well,
Todd
no, you got
Bowles.
Todd Bowles now.
Todd
there's
Bowles,
two.
but Todd Bowles wouldn't have been unless BA retired suddenly.
And he did it on
Right.
purpose, basically. What Jim is saying,
Correct.
he basically did it so they had no
That's
choice.
Right. That's right.
And then I saw, and I this is another thing that gets me going, and this is because I have a problem with a T-shirt and an end zone and shoes and this and hats. Do something about it. Don't wear something, do something. So now I see the Rooney Rule. If you interview a female, that counts. That counts now. So it's not about hiring an African-American coach or hiring a Hispanic coach or a Mexican coach. Now it's, well, if we interview females, that should be a completely different thing.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
You know what? Because it's a very, very slippery slope of how you discuss this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's, you want someone to get a job based on merit and how they've not conducted themselves in a personal way, but how they've conducted themselves of raising a defense, raising an offense, and all that. And it's just a shame that everything gets thrown out. It should be based on merit. And, the NFL needs to do a better job of getting people in a system. And I'll give you an example. The coach from Lafayette, Al Holcomb, coached defensive line at Lafayette and got into the NFL minority program and built himself up. He became a defensive coordinator at Carolina. The staff lost their job. He wound up going out to Arizona and becoming their linebacker coach and everything. Start building it up that way. And maybe they are, and maybe the NFL is doing that. But they could do a better job on stuff like that. But what I'm sick of hearing is Eric Bieniemy. Eric Bieniemy, not to demean him, but there's probably stuff in his background that is causing him not to get a job. And before, if whoever watches this wants to go crazy on me, you look at a Jim Fassel. Jim Fassel takes the Giants to the Super Bowl, never gets another head coaching job because of stuff in his background. And I think, like, when you look at a Bieniemy, that's stuff that the three of us are not privy to. And that's why Bieniemy doesn't get a job. But you're right. The NFL does need to do a better job on stuff like that. So
here's the only thing, Jim, that people will bring up and make an argument about that you cannot overcome is Wade Phillips got 3 chances to be a head coach.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Right.
100% right on that.
There's a laundry list of guys we could all rattle off and make fun of.
Right.
Sucked. And this guy can't even get into the room to begin with. So it's either super egregious. And you would think if it was really egregious, it would come out. Right. So something's going on there. I think the point you're making is something's going on there. I just don't know what it is.
Right. We don't know the background on certain things, and you want to go back to a Wade Phillips, and you know what? He might walk into a room and the owner slaps him on the back and is like, I like this guy. I can get along with him really, really well. And you know what? Todd Bowles, they can
happens all the time.
Yeah. People go, I can get along with Todd Bowles really, really well.
Yeah.
And then you look at other coaches and, hey, listen, Ray Handley never got another shot, or Rich Kotite after the Jets never got another shot. So, it's very easy to just paint it over really slim to not look at underlying factors of, and I'm not demeaning anybody, but there's certain character issues or whatever that we're not privy to that would hold people off to say, I'm not going to hire Mike Fouts or Doug Heater or Jim White because they have this in their background. But because everything's out in the open right now, oh, he's not going to get a job because of his skin color. And I'm not saying that's right, wrong, or indifferent because I don't want to get in trouble, but there are certain other underlying factors that we'll never know about of why someone doesn't get a job. And, and there are certainly minorities, white, Hispanic, that are certainly deserving that will get an opportunity in the future. And you know what? God bless them. And I hope they do.
Hey, Doug, I know we have to go, so I'll be quick here, but maybe after doing this podcast, none of us will get a job after talking about shitting our pants.
Right.
Or pissing over a Winnebago, or God only knows.
What's funny in that, and I want to end with something positive. I want to end about my trip with Shane. By the way, I cannot believe that nobody officially asked about my come and go. Mike's seen this before. Jim, I don't think you have.
You're in a little square here, so I can't
I got
really
my come and go shirt, which so this is the convenience store out in the Midwest and the West, right? Well, not Midwest, not like Ohio, but like Iowa, Colorado,
Nebraska,
Utah, Nebraska, all that. So it's the convenience store. It's like a Quick Trip or a Racetrack down south or a Sheetz or a Wawa here. So they're all over the place. So I told Shane when I was out there, I got to get me a T-shirt. And he goes, I think we stopped at the one place. There was what they had gray and red, they had black and red, they had sweatshirts, everything. Awesome. Come and go. Which when I saw this, the first time I saw one, I thought it's an independently owned place and somebody's having some fun by naming it that. But it is not. It is an actual chain out there. They're all over the place.
So I'll give these guys props. They run a Twitter account that is hysterical, by the way.
I got to find that.
Oh, it's phenomenal. The guy is a riot. And then B, just there had to be some attorneys in a room somewhere that went, no, you can't use the C. You can't, you can use K for come and go, but you can't use C, guys. Right?
So here's the other thing, and this is for another time, is my rant on, I'll do this one day, talk about the joke that is medical marijuana in this country, how much of a scam it is. So in Colorado, it's legal. So there's shit everywhere, dispensaries. So it's not, you go in, you pick out your stuff. So I got edibles that were powder this time that you could put in your drink or you just dump it on your tongue that were awesome. And then I had some of those. Why that's not legal everywhere, sorry folks, but that should be legal. You know what's great about it? They have these, damn it, I can't remember the name of the beer. Snowdrift. It's like a seltzer they have made by Coors that's out there. It probably hasn't come, there's no way it's in the East. Although I got to talk to my boy Zeke, see if he can get some. There's seltzers, but if you don't feel, there's not, next day, you're up, you're fine. There's no hangover. There's no nausea. Oh, ready to go. Fire 3 edibles down, a couple of those seltzers, and you're ready. Maybe take a puff on something. Maybe take a puff on something that somebody got in trouble in the bathroom with. You maybe do that too, and you're all set.
Hitting my 50s, I realized that if I have one too many beers, that I wake up feeling like shit the next day.
You're right. Didn't feel bad at all. Went freaking hiking, lifting, skiing, because it was every night. You gotta tear into that shit every night. Went lifted next day, skied, no problem. Now, the thing about these edibles is that they made Shane talk endlessly. He never stopped, and I just sat there because it was one of those things where I'm just sitting there and I'm not really sure what is going to come out of me, if it's even going to be intelligent or even it's going to make any sense. So I just sort of listened. But when we watched a whole bunch of wrestling too, a lot of old wrestling, and we watched basketball.
Did I win?
Funny.
Did you win the pool?
Good one.
Somebody's in that pool. By the way, somebody's in, Mike, you didn't get in it because I did it on Facebook. I didn't send it out. Somebody's in it under an ESPN like 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9. I have no idea who it is. They're currently leading. I don't know who that is. It's not you, is it?
No, it's not.
Because you have yours. I don't, I'm still alive because I've got Duke.
I did good in the first round, and then both my 2 finals got knocked out.
I had Auburn playing Duke, and Duke is still alive. So anyhow, I wanted to talk about the NCAA tournament, but we'll talk about that next week because the finals will be going on there. And now I got to use it. And I got shit and piss stories in the last 2 weeks that are so embarrassing that I can't even tell them. This is for when we're together and we're not recording. It's awful.
Holy shit. You bring that up. I started watching The Office and I almost videotaped it to send you. There was a scene. Did you ever watch The Office?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So there was one scene where Dwight was in the back of the car and had
he pissed in a soda can.
Oh, classic.
He pissed in a soda can.
Yes.
And I was like, I gotta record this and send it to Doug and Mike because I just burst out laughing when I saw.
Well, doesn't
that.
he mention it? You got to be careful because you could cut yourself because he's pissing in a soda can.
Yes.
That's not going to hold it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I got to tell you guys, I might be able. That's for another time. I'll tell you. I can tell you the story going out west. The other time. There's another one that happened a week earlier that I cannot admit to, at least not in this setting, because it's awful. It's awful. It's awful. Actually, I have 2 of them since then. I got to use it like a bastard, and we're running out of time, so we got to go.
Oh, listen, I'm going to give a shout out to my friend that we could probably talk about next week. My friend Mike Grainer, who texted me privately, and he's like, "You guys, your podcast is phenomenal." And that could be something when we think about when you were young or where our kids were young, when you looked at a person that was a really, really good athlete, like, wow, this kid can go somewhere, and you realize that, it's 1 square mile of the town you live in and everybody grows up. But that guy had a pitching form like Nolan Ryan, and everybody thought like, he's gonna go somewhere, and baseball didn't pan out for him. I'm not bashing him or anything like that, but one of the best pitchers I ever faced growing up, and that could be something we could talk about. Like when you grow up in town and like, he's good, and how everybody develops at a different pace. So,
all right,
but a shout out to Mike Grainer, who did give us a nice thing, and he's trying to get us a sponsor for this. So,
all right.
I told him
we got to keep our subscribers are climbing. Now, hopefully they enjoy this one. I got to piss like a bastard.
This was a tough one, and I'm sorry I wasn't able to make it over.
Yeah, I got to piss like a freaking lunatic right now, so we got to go.
All right.
Mike, I know you have words of wisdom. Can you hold it to next week?
Yeah, I'll save him for next week. Absolutely.
All right, because I'm going to piss
might
myself.
Piss himself.
I'm going to piss myself, which I've already. I don't want to say anything. All right, that's for another time. All right, guys. So this is going to be interesting editing this since I hung up on you a bunch of times, but good stuff, and we'll talk next week.
Yeah, we'll never do this again. I'll be over next time.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next time.